Welcome back, Captains. This is Aux2bat, Fleet Ambassador for Starfleet Special Command. I'm here today with video 3 of our 3-part ship build series. My support cruiser. Guys, it's not a support cruiser. I'll be straight with y'all. I was going to do the auxiliary to battery build for my support cruiser retrofit. Got to playing around with it, seeing the Odyssey tactical cruiser. I know a couple of my guys I play with a lot had bought one, and I got the itch, so I went ahead and bought one too. So I was going to do a normal review like my other two videos, but we're going to talk about auxiliary to battery. Give a little backstory on this build and how it came to be. Back in the early part of the year, I heard someone say auxiliary to battery, and I was like, huh? Then I read two words. It was DPS and cruiser in the same sentence. For those of you that know me really well, I'm all about DPS, and some even say I'm obsessed. There's just something about blowing up cubes by yourself that makes me happy. So anyway, throughout this year so far, I've been writing in escorts because they make me happy. Then I got bored, made a tactical science DPS, got bored again, was making my support cruiser auxiliary to battery build. Then it came to the Odyssey. Alright guys, just like in my other videos, I'll go ahead and break it down, 8 parts. Go ahead and start right here. On my 4 weapons, Nanite Disruptor Beam Arrays, Mark 12, accuracy, damage times 2. Running 3 of those. Now in the rear, I actually have a different one. This is actually a damage times 3. The middle one's a damage times 2 accuracy, and the other one's a damage times 3. That just happened to be like that. The damage times 3 was actually cheaper than the accuracy damage times 2, and I got one of them in a lockbox and found the other one on the exchange for cheap. I think somebody actually posted it wrong. It was actually only like a couple 100,000. Most of those have been selling for over $1 million, so I went ahead and bought it and just let it roll like that. Back up to the front, Quantum Torpedo Fleet, Mark 12, damage times 3 accuracy. On my deflector, assimilated deflector, Mark 11. Engines, assimilated subtrans warp, Mark 11. Warp cores, one that I found. Let's say something about this real quick. There's a couple different ways you can use these warp cores. As I'm reading more and more, I'm learning a little bit more and more about them. I picked this one because it says, you know, it takes auxiliary power and gives it to weapons. It actually adds 7.5% of your auxiliary power to your weapon power. Well, this is an auxiliary to battery build. You're not going to have any auxiliary power. But, like I said, I think I actually pulled this one out of an STF, one of the elite events. I actually won it as a prize, I guess, and so I just went ahead and stuck it in there. I guess it adds that little 7.5% when I do have auxiliary power. But anyway, on the shields, make a resilient shield array, Mark 12. Been messing around. I see a lot of guys running the 2-Borg engine and the deflector, and then adding the Mako shield because the Mako shield's got a higher capacity than the Borg shield. So I threw it on there, and it actually helps out a little bit in this build. Devices, pretty much the same thing I've been running. The subspace field modulator, and then the 3 large batteries. Auxiliary battery is going to help you out, which I'll explain this later on. Weapons battery, when you hit that spot where you have a break between your auxiliary to batteries, that weapons battery can get your weapons power back up. And the engine batteries, it actually makes a little bit of a difference, especially in some of the bigger STFs when you're trying to keep your DPS up. Anytime you're not shooting at an enemy, your DPS is falling. So the quicker you can get from, say, one side to the other side, or between one cube and another cube, however the STF is working out, the quicker you can do that, the quicker you can get back in the fight and start firing your weapons again. Because if your weapons aren't firing, you're losing DPS. The same thing goes for dying in the STF. If you die, it can actually, I died one STF not too long ago, and it probably made a good 1,000 to 1,500 DPS change in my thing, just because it took that long for me to get back in and get everything back up and running and get back in the fight. As of right before I died, this was actually on my support cruiser when I was testing auxiliary to battery. I was actually in the almost into the 9,000s, and then after everything was, I died, and then when I come back and started back up, I checked it again. It was real time, and when it finished, and I had actually lost a little over 1,000 DPS. It was like 11, 12, 1,300, something like that. So the main things about keeping your DPS up is don't die and always keep your weapons firing. So anyway, that engine battery actually helps you out a little bit. On to the engineering consoles, assimilated module, 0-point energy conduit, and 2 of the rare Mark 11 neutronium alloys. Science consoles is the Aquarius Escort, the plasmatic leech. I'll come back and go over that a little bit later on. And an emitter array. This is actually from our embassy. I actually picked it up today and threw it on here. This one actually is a minus threat plasma. What it does, it actually, if I was running all plasma weapons, it actually gives a, this is the Mark 11, there actually is a Mark 12 that does actually a little bit more, but the Mark 11 actually gets +9 to plasma. So if you're running an all plasma, this actually adds plasma damage. But it also decreases threat generation by 60% while active. So that's actually something good. If you're running an escort, you don't want that threat. You don't want that aggro. You don't want the enemy to notice you that much and shoot at you. So that would be something that you might want to consider putting on one of your escorts. I'm actually going to put one of these on my Defiant and my Artemis builds. Some of the other guys that are running the emitter arrays, they're actually not running one, they're actually running 2. A lot of the guys aren't even running the plasmatic leech, but like I said, I'll go into that in a little bit. They're actually running 2 science emitter arrays right here, right by each other. So that's actually dropping their threat quite a bit. But the other neat thing about the console itself is the 2.5% chance to do 30.3 damage per second. That's your dot effect. Added plasma dot effect to non-plasma weapons. So every weapon that I'm shooting right now, that's going to add that dot effect to. Alright, and on the bottom is the consoles, it's tactical disruptors. I actually looked earlier trying to pick up a couple of the purples, and they're even more than the phaser ones. So it's probably going to be a while before I can get into any of those. Alright, the captain's skills, captain's traits, they are pretty much the exact same. Like I said on my earlier videos, the skills, this is the skill set from the Hilbert guide. I'll annotate that here again so y'all can see that. Traits, exactly the same. I haven't changed a thing. Let's go ahead and go to the bridge officers. In the Lieutenant Commander Universal, I actually put one of my tactical guys in there. Tactical Team 1, Attack Pattern Beta 1, and Array Fire at Will. Ensign Universal, I actually put one of my engineering officers there for a emergency power to shields. Lieutenant Tactical Station, got a Torpedo Spread 1 and Attack Pattern Beta 1. Commander Engineering, emergency powered shields, and then what makes the build work, the auxiliary power to the emergency battery, auxiliary to battery 1 and 2, and then your get out of jail free card, the reverse shield polarity 2. Lieutenant Science Station, hazard emitters, and transfer shield strength. Duty officers. This is the other half that actually makes this build work very well. The 3 technicians right here is what actually helps out a lot and actually makes the build work. And not only does it help the build, it actually helps all your other bridge officers too. It's recharge time on bridge officer abilities reduced. So it's actually knocking down. For this blue one, it's going to be 8%. This build, Auxiliary to Battery, actually calls for 3 purple technicians that do that, and it's actually 10% per technician on those. So that's 30% reduction of your bridge officer power times, your power recharge times. The other 2 things I'm running right now is the con officer that helps with the tactical team, trying to keep it up as long as I can, and the emergency power to subsystem abilities. I didn't really have anything else to stick there, and I figured it wouldn't hurt with the emergency power to shields, so I went ahead and threw her on there. Alright, move on to reputation. Reputation hasn't changed too much. I'm actually getting ready to claim my tier 5. Upgrade available, ready to go. Just gotta start that. My choices here, I've got the Omega Weapon Efficiency, Weapon Training, Shield Augmentation, Graviton Amplifier, and then of course it'll be the Medical Nanocloud. Strike Force, same, haven't done anything with it yet. Romulus just started tier 4, haven't really gotten that far with it yet. Later on, this build might end up going to a plasma beam array. I'm not a bandwagon jumper. I tend not to try to follow everybody. Everybody's running plasma right now, and a lot of it has to do with those threat consoles. I don't know. I'm liking the nanite disruptors, so I'm probably just going to stick with those. All right. Next thing we go back down here to our keybinds. As it was on the first 2 videos, the keybinds are in tray 7. That keybind is from the Hilbert guide. I'll annotate that here again. But basically, what happens with what makes auxiliary to battery work? And what auxiliary battery does is when you actually use auxiliary to battery, it makes your first 3, your weapons, shields, and engines, it gives them a boost at whatever your auxiliary power is at when it did it. And what that does is we all know that beams pull a lot of weapons power. Well, when the weapons power is maxed out, that's going to keep those beams hitting as hard as they can for as long as they can. And that actually goes back to, which, like I said, I haven't seen any of the other guys that are running auxiliary to battery. I haven't seen them actually use the leeching console, but I threw it in there, and what I've noticed it doing is that little bit of slack you just saw right there on your engines, which really doesn't matter too awful much on the engines, but it actually will bump all 3 of the engines, shield, and weapons up, and it'll keep them up a little bit longer. But what's nice about that I've noticed also, as you see how the auxiliary to battery turned off and your weapons power and everything comes down, and it's putting it back into your auxiliary. As soon as it goes off, that leech actually helps adding that power back in there. So that's why I've been running that, and for some reason it works. So the other part to auxiliary to battery is the attack pattern beta spamming. That's the reason it's keybound with the beam array fire at will. Basically, what's going to happen here is when you're in the STF or in game and you're getting ready to fight and you're fighting, you're hitting that space bar, so it's activating everything. There, everything's going off, right? So you're sitting there, and as your beams go into fire at will, every target it tags, it's going to add that attack pattern beta to it, and it's going to have that damage resistance rating, that 29.9. It's going to put that on each target. So if you're actually helping out, not only are you helping yourself get through the targets quicker, you're actually helping your teammates get through the targets quicker. Well, what makes attack pattern beta work so well is that it can stack with other people. So like in my escort, y'all know that I ran attack pattern betas. So if I've got an escort set up like that with attack pattern beta, and I've got a cruiser set up like that with attack pattern beta, and we're both hitting them attack pattern betas are stacking. So instead of 29.9, it just keeps on adding and keeps adding up, and that helps. That's why when everybody can go in there and they can just rifle through a tactical cube like it's nothing. That's one of the things that helps out this build a lot, is the attack pattern beta spamming with the firearm weapons. Right before I started recording this, I actually right here I added the torpedo spread. I actually had another. It was actually a beam fire at will. It was a beam fire at will 1. I actually had that there, and I don't know, it just didn't seem like it was adding what I figured it would when I first sat down and wrote everything down on a piece of paper, trying to figure out how I was going to build this ship. So I took it out, just threw the torpedo spread in there just to see what it would do, and it did help out a little bit more. I tend to get actually the DPS on the parts I just ran. One of those torpedo spreads, it crit for like 29,000. So torpedo spreads are torpedo spreads, you know, they help out quite a bit. So I'm probably going to end up leaving that there. I might try the 2 firearm weapons again, but like I said, I'm liking how this is set up right now. On my row 2, pretty much the exact same thing that I have on my actually is the exact same thing I have on both of my escorts. You got your tactical fleet, your tactical initiative, which again reduces recharge timers on tactical bridge officers, and you got your firearm mark, go down fighting, brace for impact, and attack pattern alpha. So usually what I do is, like, when you start infecting the conduit, when you start off, you got that attack cube. You got the cube and the 2 spheres sitting there. Usually I'll hit my evasive maneuvers, head right in as fast as I can. As soon as I get up on it, I'm popping everything. Go ahead and pop everything you've got, and you'll rifle through that cube like it's nothing, knock out the 2 spheres, and then usually by that time you can clear, get out of red alert and hit your full impulse, or hit your evasive maneuvers if it's come off a cooldown, and get over to the left side and hit that cube real quick. That's where like I said about the engine batteries, is moving around as fast as you can. If you stay on top of your movement and you're constantly firing, it's going to help out. Your reverse shield polarity, like I said, that's your get out of jail free card. As soon as you see your shields starting to go down, and usually what I've seen, your shields start going down, they'll get about halfway, starting to turn red, and you'll start seeing your hull strength drop. At that, you need to go on and pop it then. If you go ahead and hit it then, it'll get your shields back up, and it'll let your hull come back up. If you catch it too late, sometimes if you can, if your hull health's down in 15, 20, 30%, then you catch it with the reverse shield polarity and get your shields back up. Sometimes your hull will come back, sometimes you won't. It just depends on what's going on at the time, and that's when you can try to get your evasive maneuvers, pull out real quick, pop your auxiliary battery, and hit your hazard emitters, and that'll go ahead and give you a good hull heal back up. Well, guys, USS Hephaestus, Odyssey tactical cruiser, auxiliary to battery build. I know that I could probably sit here and talk about auxiliary to battery for the next hour or so. I know it's a lot of information. If you have any questions, you can contact me in game, Yatis at Yatis, and I'll try to help you out as best I can. This is a learning experience for all of us. It's a learning experience for me. I've got it set up. It's running right at 9K right now. I'll add the parse log here at the end of the video. Y'all can take a look at that, see what it's doing. Like I said, if y'all got any questions, y'all know where to reach me at, and we'll try to get through this build together, and maybe we can all get together and all be running auxiliary battery one day. Anyway, guys, Yatis out.